Today we're talking about a trend that's been creeping into comedy podcasts, politicians as guests. It's honestly confusing why this is happening, and we need to break down how it's ruining the core of what these shows should be. Comedy podcasts are supposed to be an escape. We tune in for laughs, wild stories, and to hear comedians riff on everyday absurdities. But when you bring politicians into the mix, that vibe disappears quickly. Take J.D. Vance on The Tim Dillon Show, for example. When he appeared, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. Instead of engaging banter, we were subjected to serious discussions about political ideologies. The energy that makes comedy podcasts enjoyable was replaced with a dull back and forth that nobody asked for.
And dude, there is just the thing that's different about the Trump rallies versus the Kamala Harris rallies is the fake joy. Right. Of the Kamala Harris rallies versus like we're actually having fun. I mean, people say like the media says, "Oh, these Trump rallies are so dark," and then you watch a Trump rally for 90 minutes, and 30 minutes of it. And this is the way in which running for vice president is kind of like being a stand-up comedian. 30 minutes is just being funny as hell because he has a great sense of humor, and you realize people actually are having a good time. They're pissed off about the policies, of Kamala Harris, but they're actually really having fun, and we're having fun out there.
When I watch her rallies, I'm a terrible actor. And I was just in one of the worst films ever made, Joker 2.
Well, that's a commonality you have with Kamala Harris.
Yes.
Actually.
Well, you see the people
are both
at
really bad at
her
acting.
rallies.
It's frustrating to listen to a podcast when the focus turns to policies instead of the humor we expect. This trend of politicians crashing comedy podcasts leaves fans feeling confused and irritated. Then there's Noah Tishby on the same Tim Dillon Show.
Israel right now preparing a ground incursion into Gaza, potentially. Thomas Friedman, writer at the New York Times, other people who are traditionally, historically pro-Israel feel like it might be a trap. It might be a quagmire. It's similar to Iraq. It's
always a
very
quagmire in the Middle East.
Very densely populated urban warfare. What is the end game there? I mean, I think there's something about 8,000 or 10,000 Palestinian civilians supposedly have been killed, according to the ministry there. I don't know.
Which I will take with a grain of salt, and I'll hurt for every child who is uninvolved.
Yes, I mean, there's a ton of innocent Palestinians who've died, just like a ton of innocent Israelis who've died.
Don't argue that. It's horrible, by the way. But again, the difference is the intentionality of breaking into people's homes and slaughtering and mutilating them.
I will agree with you.
Collateral damage of war, which is horrible.
Right, but when you are flattening and leveling whole sections of a city, you are aware also that you're going to kill civilians. I mean, this is true.
Listen,
Tishby isn't a comedian. She's an activist and pro-Israel political commentator. Her appearance disrupted the comedic flow, replacing jokes with serious conversations about complex issues. This turned the whole episode into a complete bore. It may be one of the worst episodes of a comedy podcast that I have ever seen. Remember when Tim Dillon was conducting fake business and fighting with Airbnb lesbians? That's the time that I know and loved.
So we go to Joshua Tree, which is really it's a litter box for drug addicts. Let's be honest. It's a litter box for drug addicts. And I know that a lot of people like it, but that's what it is, and that's who you are. So we go to this litter box for drug addicts, and they've stuck a little house on the edge of the cliff, and we can all go see the desert and, take a bunch of drugs and see Satan or whatever. And we get into the house. The furniture in the house is like, It's all, of course, these are two white women. I believe they're lesbians. I don't want to say that they're lesbians. I don't know, but their names are stupid. Like one of them's name is Mila. It's a stupid name. Ridiculous person, okay? You accuse me of breaking a cactus? How do you even do that, you goofy bitch? Shut the fuck up, okay, you slob. So I walk into your fucking house, which you can't even sit on the fucking floor. I got fat people here. They're 400 pounds. How are they going to sit on your cowhide chair that's a little thin thing of fucking leather? This guy's 900 pounds. What are we going to do here? Okay? Every piece of furniture can't sodomize the guest. You have to have some fucking chair that works, like an actual fucking chair, okay? Not everybody's a 90-pound lesbian on ayahuasca that can perch on a fucking bird cage for the whole night, okay, you freaks? Listen the fuck up. Talking to you. People are going to rent your house that are actual people that need actual furniture to actually sit. Not everything's a fucking trip to hyperspace.
The problem isn't just with the politicians. The comedians themselves share some blame here. Why are they inviting these figures onto their shows? It feels like they're trying to boost their own relevance, sacrificing genuine comedic moments for a fleeting spotlight. Instead of making us laugh, they engage in serious discussions that kill the vibe entirely. The politicians can't be taken seriously anymore, which is bad for politics, and the comedians aren't being funny anymore, which is bad for comedy. Theo Von is another case in point. He recently had Donald Trump as well as J.D. Vance on his podcast. Seriously? Bringing these politicians onto his show changes everything about the goofy vibes that his viewers expect. I get it, you want to use a name like Donald Trump to boost your views, but you've sacrificed the integrity of your comedy. Listeners are left with political discourse instead of the light-hearted exchanges we look forward to. I would rather hear Theo talk about Billy Conforto crashing into an embankment for the 1,000th time than to click onto one of his newer episodes with J.D. Vance or Donald Trump.
He was also he was a boxer. He was like a real, kind of this little Italian. He looked kind of, he looked like a kind of a senior citizen, but also like a child at the same time. He was that kind of mixed Italian daddy, that mozzarella madman. And his name was Billy Conforto, rest in peace, because he ate a bunch of pills years later, and he drove a car into a embankment out there in Laplace, Louisiana.
Andrew Schultz did the same. He may be trying to reignite interest in his career, but these high-profile guests usually lead to cringeworthy moments rather than genuine laughs. It seems like Andrew Schultz would rather be one of those conservative interviewers like the Sean Ryan podcast.
I have to set the record straight on something. There was some misinformation put out on my podcast, The Sean Ryan Show, in regards to the Hurricane Helene episode. And I need to set the record straight on that.
And with the reception he's been getting lately, that might be the best option for him, because mark my words, his comedy career will be dead soon. And let's not forget Joe Rogan talking to Donald Trump, but I think we understand that Joe jumped the shark long ago. Ever since he moved to Austin, Texas, his show has been unbearable to listen to. Tony Hinchcliffe is another example of someone who should never be anywhere near a political rally, but yet that's the only reason we are seeing him on the news. He got to make his cheap joke about Puerto Rico being an island of garbage, and now he gets to be in the news headlines. He's getting the attention he has always wanted, but for all the wrong reasons.
Puerto Ricans and other Americans alike are outraged around the country after inflammatory remarks were made by comedian Tony Hinchcliffe at former President Trump's rally in Madison Square Garden.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Pennsylvania has a large Puerto Rican population, concentrated in cities including Philadelphia and Allentown. Others have settled in Lackawanna County, like Leonel Mendez. Mendez says he was hurt by the comments because they were offensive to not only Puerto Rico, but every Puerto Rican on the mainland and in the United States. Mendez and his wife own La Pura Cepa, a Puerto Rican restaurant in Dixon City. Although the couple says they do not endorse any candidate, they did not appreciate the jokes made by Hinchcliffe.
But since the joke was towards Puerto Rican, and we are kind of like a humor kind of like a person, he doesn't see it that bad, but as a Puerto Rican, it was extremely disrespectful.
As a Puerto Rican journalist who reports for all Americans like myself, I spoke with fellow Puerto Ricans in Scranton who say the jokes were not only distasteful, but an offense to all of America and what it represents, a united nation for all.
Politicians also seem like fools for having him at the rally in the first place, so was it really worth it for either side?
No one respects her, no one trusts her, no one takes her seriously. Everyone knows she is a very low IQ individual.
The rally also featured offensive comments from surrogates, including comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, who made disparaging remarks against Black, Jewish, and Hispanic Americans.
The antithesis of these comedians is Mike David from Red Bar. He stands out because he avoids politicians and guests altogether. His focus is on the absurdities of life and the comedy scene, which keeps the conversation light and entertaining. By steering clear of politics, he allows listeners to escape from reality and enjoy the humor without being pulled into political discussions. That's the kind of approach we need more of. So what's the bigger picture? Comedy should bring people together, but when political guests show up, they often create division among listeners. Fans of the comedian may clash with fans of the politician, leading to uncomfortable dynamics. Instead of connecting over laughter, it feels like everyone's at odds. As the podcasting landscape expands, we're seeing comedians bring on guests without thinking it through. Not everyone is cut out for comedy, and some comedians seem willing to sacrifice their craft for a moment of relevance. This trend just isn't working. It's not good for politics, and it's not good for comedy either.
People used to be very short in the olden days, so this was a full-size piano back then. I'm looking around because I was polishing this up. I like to, anything I buy that's wood, I wipe it down with some warm water, and then I take some wood conditioner, because a lot of these old wood products, they've been abandoned, they've been neglected, they're very dry, and especially here in the Pueblo, everything's very dry, no humidity. I like to take some wood conditioner, I rub it in, I make everything nice. But while I'm doing that, I flip this over, and I see this little piece of tape here, which at first I thought was like a price tag. But look what it says here. It's hard to read. It says this. 111-1 777-7 666-6 4431. What the fuck does that mean? Okay. But then I'm looking around and I noticed there are some numbers right here on the keypad, or the keys of the piano. Can you see that? Very faint. There are numbers written. Could we see that there? Mm-hmm. You're able to see that. So I'm going, okay, what if you're supposed to play those numbers in succession? Secession? What do they call it? And then maybe it does something. So let me hear. I wrote down the number. I copied them into this book here. 111-1 777-7 666-6 443-1. Should we see what it does? I'm going to play it. I'm going to turn on some reverb here. Let's try this out, okay? Look at! Pretty fucking funny.